Oh god, they can't see me. Bees King, they can't see me. Get that case, son. Okay, here you go. Okay, now they can see me. What's up, my bear? I got it. Why did I fall? What's up, my bear fans? It's me, Flakey. And today I have, believe, what was it, like 7 videos to react to? Yeah, 7 videos. So we're gonna start with the first vid, which is, the grimcutty one. He'll find it. He'll find it for us. Oh god, they can see the TV. Is that gonna be a problem? Yeah. Oh, great. Maybe just a little. Okay. Alright, so you got the idea. You get the idea, bruh. There it is. There it is. Oh, look, it's the grimoire. The grimoire? The grimoire. Okay, so here it is. The, oh, I believe his name is binge Xpress. What? His name is binge Xpress. Sorry, Flakey. You motherfucker. Okay, well, looks like Bees King's definitely gonna have to edit this one out.
You were hunted by a sadistic mob.
So binge Xpress is the one that does it. Alright. Get straight into this, my bear fans.
You're chilling on your bed, you're wasting your time on your phone, and it's past midnight, only to be surprised by the sudden appearance of this. Nope, not on your phone, but in front of you in your room. Well, would you be able to beat this terrifying meme monster that feeds off your parents' fear, or will you say goodbye to
oh god, they
devices
still can't see me.
Well, on this video, we're
some
going to follow
movies
how a
or
teenage
something.
YouTuber is nearly killed by a meme, discuss the mistakes she makes, and look for possible alternatives in an attempt to beat grimcutty, the internet meme, in grimcutty 2022. Let's go. But first, words from our sponsor. This video is in part made possible by Lovers, the new dating simulator that allows you to up your flirt game.
Oh, no.
Lovers is a flirt game.
No. Skip. Yes.
The movie begins with a mother worried about her son's internet activities. Seems like the trust was broken when she found a box of Kleenex next to his bed a few days ago. Meanwhile, her son spots a terrifying monster just out on their lawn. He runs into the kitchen, grabs a kitchen knife, and is prepared for the worst. He storms into his mother's room, clearly in distress, and threatens to stab her. Now, as the monster is closing in, he attacks her and, stabs her repeatedly until she dies, or almost at least. The question that remains, though, what role did this monster play? Well, let us have a look. Now, somewhere else, around the same time, Asha, another teenager, runs an ASMR channel but can't get it off the ground. Like every other parent in the world, her parents are worried about the excessive use of the internet and social media and its effects on their children's minds. So to cleanse their brains, they decide to spend a family day without their smartphones, which they call a phone-free outing. Today is her brother's saxophone performance, and she doesn't want to go. But her parents, of course, force her to, and she eventually, however unwillingly, joins the concert without her phone to bridge the lack of entertainment. Now there, her parents learn about the new internet trend famous among kids and teenagers named grimcutty. It is a bizarre game that somehow urges kids to cut and or choke themselves, which is the weirdest trend that I have ever heard of. I'm not a teenager anymore, and we have done stupid shit as well, so Gen Z excused. They start thinking about Asha and how she seems to exhibit similar behaviors like all previous victims of this trend. As soon as they get home, the kids, of course, return to their devices, and Amir, Asha's father, goes OCD on dozens of articles about teen depression and altered behavior. Now that is probably as bad as Googling your headache at 2 a.m. in the morning. Wouldn't recommend it. If you're worried about your kids and you don't know where to start, how about talking to a professional first? He is clearly distressed about his teenage daughter, at the fresh trend posing a threat. But the moment his friend sends him a picture of this grimcutty, he completely freaks out. And fair enough, man, that thing is scary. But then again, it is just a photo. Or is it?
Oh, you fluffing mother fluffer! Why? Oh wait, yes. Skip ad.
Or is it? Well, moments later, and as Asha is browsing through her phone,
Oh yeah, that's
she
her name,
senses
Asha.
someone in her room. Now, both
Asha was
kids
a
are called
complete
over for a
savage
serious
in this,
talk
yeah.
about this whole new trend and related internet consumption, and of course, they have none of it. They don't want to listen to their parents and just go back to their phones and just, play around. Fair enough, understandable. Now, Asha goes back to her room, frustrated that this grimcutty hysteria has spread even among her parents, which is actually an interesting point, right? The hysteria targets mostly the parents and not the kids. At least so far, it would seem like that. This is further backed up when Asha's parents are notified of a friend's kid who had harmed himself because of the grimcutty challenge. Now, they freak out even more. But what exactly is this grimcutty challenge? Well, apparently it is a mobile phenomenon that has this scary-looking face appear and urge you at the same time to either harm yourself or someone else. If you fail to do that in a given time frame, I guess, you will run risk of being the next victim of grimcutty. He will visit you and kill you. During the night, Asha is urged downstairs by a midnight hunger attack and ventures into the kitchen for a snack. But then she is surprised by this.
Oh yeah, that's
Welcome grimcutty to the show. Fair enough, I wouldn't want to meet that thing in the middle of the night either. So she screams her lungs out, wakes up her parents, and is just rescued in time. Now let's take a note of the butter knife in her hand. We'll talk about this later. The parents call in the police, and they reveal that this has been happening to other kids as well. Hallucinations and everything that just happened. However, everyone thinks that this is just an internet challenge and that the kids are harming themselves because of that without any interference of a third party, aka Me Monster, coming to life. Later that night, Amir, being the caring boomer that he is, takes away all of Asha's devices to stop her from hurting herself. Little did he know how much of a further escalation this would cause. The following day, the parents devise a new solution to save their kids from this hysteria. They introduce them to the detox box. The drill is they take all of their kids' devices and lock them into a box to make them stay away from social media.
And you know what's great about this movie, my bear fans, is that you find out that the mother from the beginning is completely
quick to put all
fucked up.
his devices into the box without any hesitation.
She
Later,
locks
she
her
goes to her
kid
brother and asks for
in
his
a
laptop
goddamn
that he hid
box
from their
and
parents.
starves
Smart
him.
move, but still strange, no? So
Like,
he willingly gave up
why
his phone
the
to
hell
pretend that
would
he
you
was
do that?
cooperative, knowing that at the same time he will be able to use the laptop instead and continue with his browsing regardless. Anyway, they clearly don't know who is paying for the internet. Just a few moments later, the internet is being shut off. There isn't much to do unless you know your neighbor's password in case you live in an apartment, which I fortunately did. So thank you, 721. Now I want to mention here that this grimcutty hysteria stems from the fact that the teens are all absorbed by their devices and social media. At least that is what the parents think. So understandably, they think if we take them offline, then grimcutty won't have no effects anymore. Makes sense, but let's see if that line of reasoning works out. Now after her father's effort, Asha is still determined to get her phone back. So she tries to open the detox box, and of course it wouldn't open because it is a lockbox. Wrong. This girl easily opens the box with the help of a kitchen knife. Now just as she switches on her phone, a girl named Cassidy calls. She's kind of infamous. People don't really like her for whatever reason. We don't really know why, but that's just the case. Now she tells her that her parents snatching her phone away is fascist, which is fun because it's always nice to hear teenagers talk about politics. But leaving that aside, this conversation alarms her father because obviously he is not deaf. Okay? Now she's clearly not the brightest candle in the room. I mean, she got all my support in seeking the detox box and retrieving her phone because I like rebels, but making a phone call while standing in front of it is not a good idea. Retrieve it, get back to your room, lock the door, and sneak it back in before your parents wake up the next morning. That's the way to go about this. And so the girl and her father play a weird hide-and-seek game while she keeps talking to her friend Cassidy. Now this goes on and on and on, and eventually the parents lose it and completely freak out. But this, for some reason, causes Grimcutty to appear, and the thing chases her and cuts her arm. Now Asha sees a knife in the bathroom and
That's all
attacks
that
the monster
motherfucker
back,
is, yo.
which is kind of courageous, stupid, I don't know yet. However, the monster eventually runs away. Now there are two things to discover. Asha comes across this creepy creature twice, right? She knows it's trying to attack her, yet she decides to hide from her parents and lock herself away. That is counterintuitive if you ask me. If you're followed by anything, you want to join as many people as possible so that they can help you. Secondly, how did this knife get into this bathroom? That's a little strange, but add to every other scene so far in which Grimcutty was present.
Don't. Oh god, it's a shame. Oh my goodness, that movie's gonna be fucking hilarious, yo.
We took note of that butter knife at the beginning of this video. Well, according to this movie, Grimcutty kills or hurts the kids in two ways: by cutting them or choking them. So it seems like he uses present sharp objects to confuse the parents and make it seem like the kids hurt themselves. We will explore this in more detail in just a moment. But this thing is quite sophisticated, if you ask me. Now, after the attack, Asha screams her lungs out and attracts her parents. They find her in the middle of a mental breakdown and witness the injuries she had supposedly caused herself. Now, the fact that she had broken up the lockbox and went hiding from them doesn't help the story much either at this point. Now, the parents, to prevent further escalation, forbid her to go to school. That is also counterintuitive for multiple reasons. I mean, unless you have a game plan and actually decide to stay with your tripping daughter, then fair enough. But just keeping her away from school won't solve this issue. Either you visit a therapist or you keep an eye on your daughter all the time. At this point, we still aren't sure if Grimcutty actually exists or if it's truly just a hallucination of hers. On the next day, though, she goes back to school and realizes that half the school is empty, sort of proving that the hysteria has widely spread, and to me personally, evidence that other parents deal with similar stuff compared to Asha's family. If I were her, this would give me hope and urge me to reach out to as many teens as possible and investigate together what the hell is going on. So far, she only has her vantage point, but obviously she needs more data and us too to beat this creature, whatever the hell it is. Where does it come from? How did this whole thing start? Etc., etc., etc. Now in school, she meets Cassidy and they discuss what's happening to some extent. However, she doesn't believe Asha when she tells her about the encounter with the mean monster the day before. Multiple things happen next. They venture to the house of a rich kid. Asha is handed a laptop, does some research, and finds out that this whole Grimcutty thing has started with a woman named Melinda, and therefore knows what to do next. Find that woman, of course. Not before, however, a bunch of other kids shoot some random videos that her parents somehow find at the very same time. Guess it's a live stream or something. Well, being the parents that they are, they immediately rush over to drag her back home. Now, meanwhile, she video calls her brother and learns that their parents are coming to take her home. But just then, Grimcutty appears and chases her into the house full of people, but no one else can see it. She runs into the kitchen, where she again finds a knife, attacks it, and it seems to run away. But just moments later, and after her parents had arrived, the meme attacks her again and makes it look like she cuts herself. Sneaky little thing. Now eventually the whole family rush home and find Kamran as well, seemingly attacked before, unconscious, on the floor. It's about to get lit, my friends. Let's go. The parents finally act and rush into the hospital. Now while in the hospital, Asha looks up Melinda's address on the internet and prepares to pass her a visit. Now Asha comes to know that Cassidy is hospitalized as well at the same time. She goes to her room and tells her that she has a theory as to why Grimcutty is targeting kids. According to her theory, Grimcutty is the manifestation of parents' fear. The more intense the fear, the more brutal and dangerous Grimcutty becomes.
Yeah.
If one has a theory, what is the next step? Test it, right? According to Asha's approach, though, the only way to calm Grimcutty down is to calm down the parents. But Asha decides to do the exact opposite. She escapes the hospital to meet Melinda without telling anything to her parents. First, How do they even manage to flee from the hospital? They're just teenagers, and that shouldn't be that easy, no? Also, escaping from the hospital will stress out your parents even more, risking the appearance of the monster and perhaps this time, even your death. Now, regaining my parents' trust would be the first logical step, right? Combating your social media addiction, because
That
they
makes
still
sense.
think it's all rooted in that, which it isn't, as we now know. And then, once they have calmed down, be it just a few days later, who cares? Right now, grimcutty can't intervene because they're calm. Find Melinda and figure out the source of grimcutty. And of course, therefore, figure out how to actually beat it once and for all. Anyway, as Asha reaches Melinda's house, she is cut off immediately and shut out. As we also see, Melinda is the same mother from the opening scenes.
God damn it. At least they gave me a skip.
You see, Melinda is the same mother from the opening scenes. And she obviously is hiding something. Asha senses the same thing and is determined
I'm
enough
gonna
to trespass Melinda's
get
house,
this video
get to her
liked,
son
because this is
Brandon's
really
room,
good
and
so
finds
far.
out that the poor boy is locked in for God knows how long. Looks like
Yep,
him being
there
locked
it is.
away
There's
makes it
the
easier
evidence
for
right
his mom
there.
to keep her anxiety
You
in
see
check,
that, my
and
bear
therefore
fans? That's what makes
appearance
this movie
of the
good.
monster. However, as Asha finds Brandon, Melinda's fear skyrockets again, prompting the mean monster to return.
Yep.
Proving that for some odd reason that still makes no sense to me, it's indeed the parents' fear that govern its existence. She throws our teen out of the house just the moment her mom arrives. Now, Asha tries to reason with her mom, but to no avail. Suddenly, though, she barges into the house, asks Melinda about grimcutty, and has her freak out even more. Now, in my opinion, okay, all of them should shut the hell up for a second and consider the insane potential of Xanax to beat this thing.
Huh.
If fear is a driving force, then how about
Okay,
doing it as a
Binge
chemical?
Xpress.
Not condoning drug abuse, but this seems to be a pretty good situation to indulge in some pills, my friends. You know, anything that alleviates you from any fear. Now, during this whole mess right here, Asha's mother realizes that once the parents relax, grimcutty goes away. Now, meanwhile, in the hospital, Amir looks through Kamran's laptop and finds some really dark stuff on there.
Ah,
And you know what that means, right?
oh, sorry. Here's the VR box thing. There's
Fortunately,
that
Asha's mother reaches the hospital
ugly
just in
mother
time
fluffer.
and tries to calm down her husband. She tries to explain what is happening, but he gets just more furious by the second. During this argument, Kamran runs away from his room, causing Amir to frantically chase him as if he was the bad guy. Now, while searching for his son with a sedative in his hand, Amir comes across Asha, who purposely provokes him to have grimcutty appear. Looks like she thinks she can take it hands on, which does not make any sense. Now, as the creature appears, she stabs him multiple times, but to her surprise, nothing happens. Who would have thought? An invisible mean monster that is attracted by parental fears can't be stabbed to death. What a surprise. Just then, Amir joins the party again, still completely oblivious of what is going on, and then finally, Asha thinks, well, if I can't fight the monster, I may beat it with calming down my father first. So she does the next best thing. She stabs him. Yeah, she thought he will drop unconscious if she stabs him. Clearly, her dad, not unconscious yet, is peak level stress right now, and so she comes up with a plan B, which is let herself be grabbed by the monster, have dad witness everything, make him understand that whatever she talked about during the past few days, all day, every day, was real, and then pass him an IV of whatever sedative he holds in his hands. And boom, that's exactly what happens. Grimcutty beat. Yeah, my friends, listen, a little bit more of a commentary this time. Excuse me if you were wishing for a proper beat video. We're going to have 2 uploads next week. Hope you enjoyed this one anyway.
God
Hope you did.
damn,
Drop a like
yeah.
if you did. Thanks for watching as always. Catch you guys again next week. Take care and binge another one.
I like this guy. Uh-oh. Oh, no! What happened? Oh, okay, we're good. Oh, my goodness. Alright, so it's called Binge Xpress. Hold on, my bear fans. I'm pretty sure maybe we can see if Binge Xpress does the Saw franchise. Because like I said, I'm fucking loving it, yo. Like, oh my god. Though that once the ending of that movie, the fifth, oh my goodness, I had to look away. I really had to look away. Holy fuck, oh my fluff. Okay, that's what it's called. Okay, so Binge Xpress, my bear fans. And then we're going to type in Saw and see what they have. If they don't have all of them, I'm guessing we're going to have to just watch the hit thing again. And then we can go back to this. Yeah, they do not have it, fortunately. All right, I guess we're going to have to go to Hit Start for this. So, up to, I believe, 1. And then once we get to 5, we'll go to Binge Xpress. Yeah, there we go. That's what we'll do. Heck yeah. All right, hit start. There we go. Here it is. Here's the how to beat every Saw trap video. All right, let's get this member. No one cares about this dumb ad.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And you guys probably know that some of the most iconic horror films are the Saw movies. There are 8 of them to date, and they've had such a massive impact on popular culture that there's even a Simpsons episode featuring its ideas.
What the? Change up like a common bicycle!
But let's get into the video, where we'll break down the movie as well as how you can beat all of the traps in it. The original Saw movie starts with 2 men waking up in a torture chamber chained to pipes by their ankles. Neither of them know anything about what's going on or why they're here. One of the men is a photographer named Adam, and the other is Lawrence Gordon, a medical doctor. Although they believe they've been chosen randomly, their storylines are actually very closely intertwined, but more on that later. In the middle of the room, we see a man lying on the floor who's holding a revolver in one hand and a tape recorder in the other. Both Adam and Lawrence then find microtapes in their pockets and play them. Adam's tape simply reveals that he must survive, while Dr. Gordon's tape says that he must kill Adam by 6 p.m. to escape this room and see his kidnapped wife and daughter again. On his tape, we also hear a voice in the background mention that he must follow his heart. This leads them to check the toilet that has a heart drawn on it. In it, Adam finds a bag with 2 saws and a bunch of pictures. He throws one of the saws to Lawrence, but hides the photos from him. They try to cut the chains, but soon realize that they're supposed to cut off the foot and chains to free themselves.
He doesn't want us to cut through our chains. He wants us to cut through our feet.
Yeah.
And this is where there are some opportunities to free yourself without doing what's intended. The easiest way to overcome this is to cut through the rusty pipes instead of the metal chains. Rusty metals are known to be far weaker than ones that aren't, and judging by the state of this disgusting bathroom, these pipes should be pretty soft. And if that doesn't work, there's still another way. They could, for example, take the big solid toilet tank lid and try breaking the padlock that holds into the pipes. The lid might actually break, but forcing it with brute force has been shown to work in the past, so it's at least worth a try. The last thing you could do is cutting off a small piece of your foot instead of the entire thing. Either cut through the bone that sticks out of your foot or remove a part of your heel, depending on how the chains are attached. This would be extremely painful, but it's far quicker and better than cutting off your entire foot. But this one is probably the easiest. Anyways, now we get a flashback that reveals the first big chunk of clues regarding the villain of the movie. We follow 2 cops, Tap and Sing, who see the crime sites of 2 previous victims of the killer. The first one we see is a man who had to escape a small maze filled with razor wire. If he can't complete the task, he will be left there to rot. And this guy had a fairly interesting approach of throwing himself onto the wire. I don't know what he thought would happen, but if you're ever in this situation, you should do the exact opposite. Notice how there are no wires on the floor, so the first step you should follow to beat this is crawling on the ground with your stomach side down to not expose any of your major veins to the wire. And since the wiring seems to have been put in place rather loosely, you could try taking the underwear, put it around your hands, and use it to carefully push the wire out of the way. Now, escaping this maze might take some time, but there's a good reason why you got 2 hours to complete it. Instead, what this guy did is panic and charge at the wire head-on, which is not a good idea at all. But there's an easier way to escape this. A way so easy literally takes nothing. And this is simply doing nothing. If he does nothing, he's just left there. So if he's the guy with a family and lots of friends who are looking for him, they would have eventually discovered him. But unfortunately, he wasn't that type of guy, so he only got found after a couple of weeks. The police also find a jigsaw puzzle piece on his back. This leads to our villain being dubbed as the Jigsaw Killer. Then we come to our second guy, who's named Mark, and this one is a little trickier. Mark was trapped in a room with glass on the floor. On his tape, we hear that he was injected with a poison. To survive, he must use the camel to the wall that has a hidden code to the safe, which holds the antidote. However, the code is written among a bunch of other numbers on the wall. Also, he's covered in flammable gel, so he must be careful with that candle. This puzzle is often misunderstood, but essentially you have these numbers on the wall, but the combination of the safe is written slightly differently. It's Mark's job to find these hidden numbers and enter them into the safe to get the antidote to the poison in his body. If you're in this situation, there's kind of only one solution, and that is being extremely careful with a candle. Hold it at an angle and far away from your body. The numbers on the wall are really big, so there's no reason to get your head this close to them anyways. When it comes to the glass, there is something you could try. Instead of stomping on it like this, you could try pushing the glass out of the way. But that only works if it's a thin layer of glass on the floor. Oh, and by the way, the reason Jigsaw kidnapped this guy is that he skipped work. He called in sick when he really wasn't. And that's apparently enough to justify setting him on fire. While at this particular crime scene, the police find a pen light. Tap wants to check the fingerprints on it, and they come back as Dr. Gordon's. This leads them to the hospital where he works. There we see him talk to a group of students about a patient with a brain
Mark
tumor.
Hoffman
One of the orderlies named
is
Zach,
the
but
one that
informs us that his name is John. Soon after Dr. Gordon is asked
like
to
in,
speak to the
there's a
police about the
flashback in
prints
Saw
on the
5
pen.
where
Tap asks
Mark
him
Hoffman was
While down to the
actually in
station
Saw
where he
2
listens to the testimony of the man with Rubik's gates.
and
She reports how she woke up in a chair
Saw
with a
1
big
as
machine
well.
strapped to her head. Then the TV turns on, and we see the puppet Billy informing her about how the device will forcefully pry open her jaw and function as a reverse bear trap if she can't get the key from another man's organs. As she stands up from the chair, she removes the mechanical trigger and the timer to the trap goes off. She cuts the other guy open, retrieves the key, and manages to remove the mask. Amanda reveals to the police that she believes that her experience actually helped her with her drug addiction. Think of that with the well. To beat this one, you will firstly need to calm down. The key to most of these traps, Jigsaw wants you to panic without first getting a good sense of your surroundings, but you should do the opposite and not start running around, as this trap gets triggered when you stand up and remove the mechanical trigger from the mask. So remain in the chair and carefully remove the trigger, and that way you have an infinite amount of time to remove the mask. The second way of beating this is demonstrated by a character called Hoffman, who's introduced in the later movies.
Oh
He
god.
gets this trap put on him, and he survives it by putting the mask in between two
Hold up.
steel bars. The
I
trap
want
goes
this part
off, but
because
it's blocked from opening by the bars.
I'm not on Saw
Since the
6
rooms
yet.
the characters are in aren't empty, you could probably find two parallel pipes or a small enough space to cram your mask into.
Damn
Then you'll
it.
have more time to remove the mask. Yes, doing it this way can be quite painful, but again, it's better than
Okay,
dying.
we're good.
So now we return to Adam and Dr. Gordon, who slowly progress through their trap, before we get yet another flashback which also reveals a lot about the killer. We follow our two cops as they break into Jigsaw's lair.
Back to
There,
Tap
they discover a man
and,
tied to a chair.
Detective Singh.
Unfortunately, Jigsaw returns while they're snooping around. He then sets off the trap to kill the man. While the police officers try to stop the machine, the killer reveals that he has a sickness inside of him. They actually manage to beat this trap by shooting at it, so this one is given to us. However, as Tap stops paying attention, in a split second he gets his throat cut by Jigsaw, but manages to survive. The killer runs away, but is pursued by Detective Singh, but he gets killed by another sneaky trap. This one, along with the one before that, are not really beatable, but it's also not a saw trap. You know, it's not intended to be beaten. So we're not counting these. Back in our torture chamber, Dr. Gordon finds a box that includes a cell phone which can only
Why
receive calls
the
but not
hell
make
does
them,
this beef
as well as two cigarettes.
sound
With the
familiar?
cigarette comes a note that implies that Dr. Gordon can kill Adam by dipping
Oh
one of
my
the
god,
cigarettes in
it's
the poisoned blood
what's
of
the
a man
difference by
lying on the
Dr.
floor
Dre?
and making him smoke it. Lawrence tries making an outgoing call but only hears the phone's error message. This makes him remember what happened before. So we get another flashback revealing how Dr. Gordon was kidnapped and sedated in a parking garage after supposedly returning from work. In the flashback,
Also,
he
my
explains
favorite
how he heard
fans,
someone
after
taking
I'm
a picture of
done
him shortly before he got attacked.
reacting
The next
to
thing
all
he
these
remembers is
movies,
waking up in the
there
bathroom.
is a
As we come back,
YouTuber
Adam
that I should
reveals
react
one of
to,
the
which I
pictures
am
he
going
has
to
been
give him a
hiding from
shot.
Gordon. In it, we see his wife and daughter
ZZ's
tied up.
World.
Then Adam tells Gordon the last thing
He
he
does
remembered
the
before he
complete
ended up here.
timeline
He
of the
was
Saw
developing
franchise.
photographs in
So.
his apartment when the power suddenly goes out. And while stumbling around in the apartment,
Oh, you need to turn your air on, baby.
Anna, has anyone wore these?
Open them, baby.
Okay.
I don't want no toe jam. Can you not put in your...
Huh? Oh, wait.
It's hotter than shit in here, babe. Oh, you got your camera going? Hi, people! You need to see your room. Your bedding needs to be changed.
Okay, after this live stream is done, it's my room movies. That just means.
Overpowered by a man in a pig mask. Ward then receives a phone call from an unknown number. He answers it, and it turns out that it's his wife and kid. His wife mysteriously brings up Adam's name and tells Lawrence that he shouldn't believe his lies, and that Adam knew about him long before today. Adam comes clean and confesses to Dr. Gordon that he has been hired by Tap to spy on him, as Tap believed him to be the killer. It turns out that Adam took his picture that night in the parking garage, but Lawrence wasn't coming back from the hospital. In reality, he lied about that, as he was returning from a motel where he was about to cheat on his wife with one of his students. Lawrence claims that nothing happened, while Adam states that he doesn't care if he covered himself in peanut butter and had a 50-meter gambag. That's not important to the story, I just like mentioning it. Adam then reveals all of the pictures that were in the bag, and one of the photographs was Zeph, the orderly at Dr. Gordon's hospital. This leads them to believe that he's the killer, and it is in fact Zeph who's holding Dr. Gordon's family hostage. However, as they figure this out, the clock strikes 6 p.m., which means that Lawrence's time to kill Adam is up, so his family will face the consequences. Zeph calls Dr. Gordon to tell him this, and he's about to shoot his wife, but she manages to free herself. A fight ensues, which leads to the gun being discharged many times, but it doesn't hit anybody. Dr. Gordon hears the shots over the phone and panics as he believes that his wife has been killed. In a state of desperation, he saws his foot off and grabs the gun from the body and shoots Adam in the shoulder. Back in the apartment, we see that Tap noticed the noise and entered the apartment to save Lawrence's family. Meanwhile, Lawrence's wife and kid escape. Since both Zeph and the cops suffered shooting, Zeph also manages to escape and is chased back to the torture chamber to at least kill Lawrence. As he arrives in the lair, Zeph manages to kill Tap. He then wants to kill Dr. Gordon too, but Adam, who was nearly injured by the gunshot, manages to take Zeph out to the toilet.
Yeah.
Lawrence escapes the torture chamber with his one remaining foot. Adam then finds one last tape on Zeph's body. This reveals that he's also merely a quality gauge, and it's revealed that he was injected with the poison, and he only kidnapped Lawrence's family in order to receive the antidote once he completed all the tasks mentioned on the tape. Then the body husband the entire time stands up, and we learn that it's John Kramer, the man with the brain tumor from the hospital. It turns out that he's the mastermind behind all the jigsaw killings. He peels up the plot latex on his head and leaves the torture chamber with Adam being left to starve. That concludes this video. So now we know how to beat all the traps in 2004's Saw. Overall, I'd say this movie, from pretty much any character's point of view, is fairly easy to beat. If I missed anything or got anything wrong, let me know. Anyways, I hope you guys liked it, and I'm going to see you guys in the next video.
Yeah, alright. Okay, I'm definitely giving this one a because that was really good. Alright, here we go. How to beat every trap in Saw 2. That would be his King 2 just burp.
Oh, you know all these guys are for me breaded fish.
Excuse me, my bees.
Guys, in the previous video, we looked at how to survive all of the traps in the first Saw movie. Today we'll break down Saw 2 and reveal how you can do the same for this one. Even though it's my favorite in the Saw franchise, the traps are probably the easiest to beat, with one method being so simple that you can solve the entire game conflict in about 5 minutes. The movie takes place shortly after the first one, but it's not mentioned how long. A man named Mike wakes up alone in a room and finds a mask filled with nails strapped around his neck. After screaming for help, the TV turns on, and we get the explanation.
Hello, Michael. I want to play a game.
He's here because, as a police informant, Mike spends his entire time spying on other people. So Jigsaw's going to see if he's willing to give up one of the things he relies most on. The test is that he's given a scalpel and needs to cut into one of his eyes, behind which is the key that unlocks the mask. And if he can't beat the game within 1 minute, the mask will snap shut, and the many nails inside will kill him. What's important about the mask is that, much like the reverse bear trap in the first movie, it has a mechanical trigger that starts the timer. If the trigger is never pulled or even removed, The timer doesn't begin, and you would have an unlimited amount of time to free yourself. In the previous movie, the characters didn't notice this because the trigger was behind them so they didn't see it, but Mike is actually looking and even touching the trigger, meaning that the first way to beat the trap is to not pull this wire. But in his state of panic, he does.
Actually, I think what these two
He takes the scalpel and tries to cut his eye, but can't bring himself to do it. However, even after pulling the trigger, there's another way to survive. Now, the trap doesn't work if something is blocking the mask from holding together. If the mask doesn't close, the nails can't form it. And there are two things he could try. First are the big pipes by the wall. The gap in between them is big enough for him to fit his head through the space sideways, but the mask is staying outside. That way, when the timer hits 0, the pipes would stop the mask from closing. But there's an even better solution. He can try the same thing with the big cinder block in the corner. If he simply places it on top of his head, the long, heavy stone would also stop the mask from shutting. And since the nails are so deep in the mask, he would probably survive. Anyways, Mike continues to struggle with the test, but eventually the time runs out. And, well, you know. After that, we're introduced to one of our main characters, Detective Eric Matthews. He's part of the team that's investigating the Jigsaw murders. One day, they find a warehouse that the killer might be using, and in a police raid, they find John Fraser, calmly sitting there looking like he was already expecting them. With him, they find a bunch of computers that appear to be showing a live feed of a different house. In it, there are 7 people, one of whom is Eric's son. They ask him what this is, and he tells them that there's a toxic gas in the house that will kill them within 2 hours. When Eric asks where he took his son, John only tells him,
He's in a safe place.
We cut to the guys breaking up in the house, and none of them seem to know what's going on. They're all locked in a room with a security camera and a big safe. Among the 7 people, we see Amanda, who we already saw in the first movie, but she appears to be back in another trap. Since she's the only one that has done this before, she starts looking around the room for clues. She finds a tape hidden in the wall, which informs them about the toxic gas.
Right now.
For John Kramer did that day in the flashlight of Saw 5.
It reveals that there are antidotes that can save them, but they're hidden in the house. The only rule is that they need to survive for 3 hours, after which the exit to the house opens up. With the tape, they find a key and a note that reads, "Don't use this on the door." But 2 of the guys try it anyway. While one of them turns the key, the other one who looks through the peephole gets shot in the face by a gun on the other side. This was pretty easy to beat since Addison, one of the people in the room, already looked through the peephole right here. She could warn them that they're looking down a long barrel which could be dangerous. Or they could have simply done what is written on the note. Either way, I'm pretty sure the strap was meant to be beaten since they almost put it right where you look. If John really wanted to kill someone here, he could have hidden the gun where they couldn't have seen it. Eventually, the door to their room opens automatically.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
They carefully go through it and find themselves in an old house where almost every room is locked. Jonas says that instead of splitting up and aimlessly walking around the house, they should stick together and work as a team. But they decide to follow the buff guy, Xavier, who is kind of an idiot. They walk downstairs and find a big door in their exit. This is the door that will unlock and open after 3 hours. Xavier tries to beat down the door with a bat he found, however the outside is reinforced with steel planks. And here there's another way to beat the whole test. In between the planks are small gaps, which I believe go to the outside, so they could beat down the whole door and let some of the outside air get in. Then they could all stand by the door and breathe in the gases rather than the toxic gases that are in the house. The gas would still harm them, but they stretch out the time it takes for the gas to kill them because they're breathing a lot less of it. They only need to do this for 3 hours, after which the door opens. Instead, what they do is split up and search for things in the house. Laura then finds the entrance to the next room. It leads them into the basement where they finally take Robbie. And this room is his test. The tape explains that he must climb inside a furnace where he will find 2 of the antidotes. He goes inside and grabs one of the syringes, however the second one is stuck on the chain. As he pulls it down, he gets locked inside and a fire starts burning. It quickly comes closer and closer to him, so he sticks to the corner. When he looks through the flames, we see a valve at the other end of the furnace. On it, there's a picture of the devil that says twist. A lot of people think that John simply set Aubin here to die, but twisting it would most likely turn off the gas. Not only did the tape mention this...
Wait, what?
Once you are in hell, only the devil can help you out.
But John usually sends his victims through the test to see if they can survive. This leads me to believe that Avi's real test is to see if he would reach through the flames and burn himself to turn off the fire, or if he would sit in the corner and do nothing. But the easiest way to escape from the inside would be for
So Avi
to turn
could have
around and
survived
actually
that
look at
if
the
he-
door he was kicking. Because then he
Okay.
would realize
If you
that he
just
only has to
twisted
turn
the-
this one notch and it would unlock the door.
Wait,
The
what?
way this trap was set up was pretty simple. He pulled the chain and a small wire flipped the stud, so it flipped it back over. But I think there's a secret way to stop the fire, because before Avi climbed into the trap, he clicked the valve on the outside of the furnace. However, he yanked the grip off and threw it away for some reason.
What do you put on it? What kind of it?
I think that if you were to turn that valve, that it would shut off the gas. I mean, filmmakers rarely insert random moments into a movie that exist for no reason. So I think they wanted us to notice him playing with the knob. And it makes sense that a big furnace can be controlled from the outside. Unfortunately, none of the other guys noticed this. After pulling on the locked door, they go to the other side of the furnace and find a small glass window. When Xavier breaks it, Avi reaches out with one arm, but doesn't fit through. They try to open the door to the furnace, but it's too hot. This adds a new way to get out. They can take their clothing and wrap it around the handle, which is what they tried with the other door. Even though this seems a little too easy for Jigsaw, I'd still try it. But I do have to say one thing. All of these guys kind of act like idiots. First of all, they should check out the furnace before going inside of it. They already saw that the entire house is set up with traps that look like something out of Home Alone. And I mean, come on, a giant furnace? That seems like an obvious trap. So instead of wandering around the room doing nothing like these guys, they should watch them more carefully. That way they might have even stopped the door from closing and locking him in there. After Eric gets nowhere with John and time continues running out, our protagonist slowly starts feeling the gas's toxic and poisonous effects. Jonas shows up and reveals that another room is open. They go upstairs, but the unlocked door appears to be stuck on something. By now they should know that this is probably for a reason. However, Xavier decides to force the door open. They enter the room and check everything out. In it, they see a big door with a 4-minute timer that started ticking away after they came in. Eventually, they find another
Get out of
which
here for a
reveals
second,
that
my
this
good man.
one is Xavier's test. Since he's a drug dealer, he needs to jump into a pit of
Nope.
used needles and find the key to the door, behind which is an antidote.
It will be like finding a needle in a haystack.
Flipping the needle bits.
But Xavier doesn't really feel like jumping in, and since he's the most powerful one in the group, he throws in Amanda and forces her to look for the key.
Oh no, don't. Oh no. Oh God, why?
She slowly picks through the needles, but as time runs out and adrenaline kicks in, she fights herself through the pit. With less than 10 seconds on the clock, she finds the key and gives it to Xavier. He takes it, puts it in the lock, but misses it in the last possible second. All this guy had to do was put a key in a hole, and he still failed. In order to beat this, they would seriously need to stop wasting time. They go in there and do nothing for a solid 20 seconds, and they waste half their time before they even get to the test. Any second saved here and they would have beaten it. Once Amanda was thrown in the pit, they could have given her clothes or these blankets to wrap herself with, so that fewer needles would puncture her. They can also give her shoes for her hands. That way her arms would have been protected and she can shovel through the needles much quicker. After they fail the trap, Xavier tells them,
No more talking. The only thing you people have in common is holding back.
Hold
"Oh
on.
really, Xavier, that's interesting because you haven't done anything yet." But anyways, back with the police, they notice that they have to act fast. So Eric tries to anger John by ripping up all of his paperwork. But he doesn't care, saying that this won't save his son. Then he reveals that he knows that Eric consistently cuts corners and has repeatedly planted evidence to falsely arrest people. That's what all the people in the house have in common. They were unjustly put in prison by Eric, except for Daniel, of course, that's his son. Now the group looks more tired than ever. As they're stumbling around the house, Addison finds another room that opens. In it, she sees a glass cage with a syringe.
Nothing fucking do it.
She
God
puts her
damn it.
hand through the hole and tries to pick it up, but it's glued to the glass. After pulling the body out and spilling the entire antidote over the box, she puts the other hand in, but that doesn't do anything. Then we see that the holes are made out of sharp blades which fold inwards but not out, meaning that as she
Flakey does
tries to
not
pull
like
her hands out, the
some
blades
parts of
dig
the
into
song.
her arm. If you do put your hands in, obviously don't pick up the syringe by the body, but from the bottom. Even if you start pulling by the body, by the time you're almost at the top, you might notice that this isn't working and you're about to spill the whole thing and make a big mess. So put one hand in and yank the syringe off by its bottom or break it off. However, you still need to get out of the box, since the goal is to survive for 3 hours and then leave the house, which you can't do if you're stuck with it. If you put only one hand in so far, you can take your other hand and slide it in the same hole. Then you can lift up the blades with your fingers and take your arm with the syringe out of the box, but your hands need to be small enough. But if you have both arms in like Addison, there's a slightly different way out. Instead of trying to force your arms out like this girl, you can lift up the blades by the other arm. The way these blades work is with this folding mechanism. If you lift one blade, the rest are pushed open as well. So take your arm, carefully reach over to the other one, and lift up one blade. This way they all open up and you can take your hand out. But the easiest way to beat this is revealed in the behind the scenes of the movie.
Wait, what?
Right.
Oh, that was a badass movie, by the way, my bare fans.
Well,
Go watch Insidious: The Red Door.
Audience members might see, the ones who are really paying attention, is that just at the top of the frame, you see there's a little lock hanging down, and there's a key. If she had just walked a few more steps in the room, she would have found the key, which opened the top of the box. She could have reached in there and pulled this antidote out.
So walk around the box, grab the key, and unlock it. But what Addison does is push her arms further and tries to pull them out. But I'll contribute her bad decisions to the effects of the toxic gas. Back with the cops, Eric starts beating up John until he decides to help. Eventually, he says he will take Eric to the house. He and John escape the lair and drive towards him. The police quickly find out where they're going and follow him. Eric arrives at the house and tries to find his son, but when the SWAT team enters and goes into one of the rooms, they see that what they watched on the computers was a recording. Everything they saw with Daniel, Jonas, and the others already happened, but Eric doesn't know that. So when he finally reaches the room where he thinks Daniel is, it's completely empty. There he gets surprised by someone in a pig mask. Meanwhile, the safe opens back in the warehouse by John's desk. In it, the police find Daniel still alive. A few hours later, Eric wakes up again. He finds a tape where Amanda speaks. She reminds him that he was the one who falsely sent her to jail. She reveals that she's become some sort of disciple of John and has been working with him. We find out that she helped make this trap and was in on it the entire time. In a fast cut of the movie's events, we're reminded that Daniel would have gotten his son back if he would have simply stayed in the warehouse and talked to John.
so we have to do is sit here and talk to him. If you do that well enough, you will find your son in a safe and secure state.
Eventually, the safe would open and we would get Daniel. However, John apparently knew that Eric would be so impatient, and now he's left to die in the dungeon. This leaves Amanda to carry on John's twisted torture games after his death. In the last shot, we see John in the car, seemingly dead from his injuries after getting beaten up by Eric. But here's how the group could have escaped the house in a very short amount of time. After the group makes their way out of the first room, Xavier finds the bat. Jonas asks what his plans are, and he says,
Jonas.
It's wood, plaster. It's not a fortress. It's a house.
This means that this is an old, cheap house that is made out of wood.
Jonas
And I'm no construction expert, but the way this house is probably built, they can beat a big hole in one of the outside walls. That way they can either escape through the hole, or if that doesn't work, it would still ventilate the house. After 3 hours, the doors unlock and they can leave. Or they could break the interior walls and get a few of the antidotes by going into the rooms while they're still locked. Anyways, those are my methods for beating all of the traps in Saw 2. I did skip the electrified staircase in John's lair, but that wasn't really a trap, and I'm pretty sure no one actually died from it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.
That's true. Alright, so leave a like on that. Alright, let's do the next one.
Welcome back to the channel. By now we've looked at how to beat the first two Saw movies, so when I started watching Saw 3, I felt pretty confident. However, I quickly realized that not every trap here is beatable. Most of them are, but the first two either require specific knowledge that the people in the trap don't have, or you can only do so much to increase your odds of survival. And it's not because the traps are set up carefully and planned out well, but because they're completely rigged. The people in them weren't meant to survive at all. But let's get started and find out which traps you can beat. Saw 3 starts out pretty much exactly where Saw 2 left off. Eric Matthews is alone in a dark dungeon where Amanda left him to die. He realizes he's chained to a pipe by his ankles, similar to how the people in the first movie were. Then he notices the saw and gets that he's meant to cut off his own foot, but that's not really an option for him. Instead, he takes a nearby toilet tank lid and uses that to break his foot and pull it out of the shackles. He does manage to escape, but before smashing your foot, there's something else he could do. In the beginning, he sees that Amanda left him a gun without any ammo, and what he could have tried is using the heavy, empty gun as a sort of hammer to break the lock, chaining him to the pipe. The lock on his foot doesn't really look like one of those unbreakable, heavy-duty locks, but much more like a smaller, off-the-shelf lock that you can break by force alone, and it's certainly something you could try before smashing. But we cut to a SWAT team arriving at the crime scene of yet another victim of the jigsaw killer.
Oh my god. Someone call Karen.
Allison, the cop from the last movie, is also here, and based on what they find, they get a good idea of what happened. A man named Troy was put in this classroom with multiple chains pierced, slashed, and blunt through his jaw. Jigsaw explains that he was put here because he spent his entire life in and out of prison, so now he must fight for his freedom. On the table in front of him is a nail bomb with a 1 minute 35-second timer on it. In order to survive, Troy needs to rip out all the chains pierced through his body and escape the room. However, one thing he isn't told is that the trap is nearly impossible to beat. First of all, the door to the classroom was welded shut.
The aim of Jigsaw's game was to get out. The bomb went off, and why was the door welded shut? The guy couldn't get out if he wanted to.
And one of the rings goes through his mouth. So to remove it, you'd have to pull out your entire jaw, which you can't do because it died of blood loss. So survival is not only highly unlikely, but also virtually impossible. With that being said, there are things you could try to slightly improve your odds. You could remove all the rings from your upper body and reach left and right to get chairs and tables and throw it at the bomb. This might sound kind of strange, but what could happen is that the jar falls off the table and breaks, which means that the nails inside roll all over the place. And once the explosive goes off, pure nails function as projectiles. You would also be covering the bomb with furniture. This adds resistance, which slows down the nails. Then, if you rip out all the 6 necessary chains, you could lie on the floor with your legs facing the bomb. That way, you not only minimize the area where you could be hit, but you do the best you possibly can to protect your head. But again, survival is highly unlikely, because this trap wasn't meant to be beaten in any way. Troy ends up removing all the chains except for the one in his jaw, but the bomb goes off and tears him to shreds.
Oh, son of a fluffing mother fluffer.
To Allison's home during the evening, she watches the Jigsaw tape retrieved at the crime scene, but it switches to a different video. It shows security camera footage of her apartment, and it's a live feed. She tries looking for the camera, but gets kidnapped by someone. A few hours later, she wakes up chained to a device while hanging. The room turns on and reveals that she's here because, as a police officer, she dedicates her life to protecting society from deranged serial killers, which in Jigsaw's eyes means that she's not appreciating life. I mean, she's probably just here because John needs to get rid of her. Here, Allison has 1 minute to retrieve the key to the trap from a beaker full of highly acid. After struggling to free herself, she reaches into the beaker and actually manages to get the key. But even though she played by the rules, the lock doesn't open. Then someone comes in and remotely sets up the trap, meaning that this one was also rigged. Now let's assume that it wasn't actually fixed and the key really would free you. What you can do in that situation is pour the acid out of the beaker. And since your legs are off the floor, it's not like you're letting the acid run onto your feet. The beaker is also hanging from chains instead of being fixed in place, so you can lift it up, pour it out, and then get the key with only minimal acid burns. However, the trap was rigged, and I think there is a way you can theoretically stop the machine from tearing you apart. Still, it requires you to know how the trap is set up, which Allison doesn't know. But if you ever find yourself in this exact setup, you might be there. So the beaker is most likely filled with nitric acid. I'm not a professional chemist, but from my research, the only acid to have this yellow tint is nitric acid if you expose the air for some time. Nitric acid, by the way, is strong enough to dissolve a lot of metals. Anyways, the way this trap works is that these small wires pull at the bars connected to your ribs and tear them away. So you can try spilling the acid onto the thin wires by rocking the beaker towards them. If they're made out of steel or even platinum, the acid will eat through the iron in the cables and significantly weaken the other metals to break in time. Since the acid is powerful enough to dissolve this key in a matter of seconds, it could do the same to the wire. That way, once the person comes in and activates the trap, the wires would break and not pull anything away from your body. But the killer is still in the room and is probably wondering why the trap didn't fling your body in half. But from there on, you're on your own, because I'm all out of ideas. Soon after, a doctor named Lynn Denman gets kidnapped and brought into Jakesoft's lair. We see that Amanda kidnapped her. She brings Lynn to a room with John Kramer where she's supposed to treat his brain tumor. But it's not that simple, because even this is turned into a trap. Lynn gets a device called a shotgun collar strapped around her neck, which is linked to John's heart rate.
The second that heart rate monitor flat lines, where you move out of range, an explosion will go off in that collar.
The shotgun collar is beatable because it has a few significant weak points which you can exploit, but we'll get back to this one later, because it becomes much more important at the end of the film. Now we see a man named Jeff waking up in a box which sits on top of a forklift. When he breaks out of the box, he falls down and knocks himself out. Here, if you notice it's shaking and has enough space to look out, you might want to first get a sense of his surroundings, especially since he has no idea where he is and how he got here. That way he wouldn't fall down into his head, which probably impaired his decision-making and ability to beat the traps he encounters later on. He blacks out from the fall, and in a flashback we see that Jeff lost his son in an accident to a drunk driver. He was at a playground with his son when he got run over. Now he's a man filled with anger who neglects his daughter and only wants to get revenge on the man who killed his son. As he wakes back up, Jeff begins walking through the warehouse and goes into the first room, an ice-cold meat locker. There he finds a woman hanging from the ceiling with water hoses on poles to her left and right. In the corner of the room, he finds a tape which explains that she was the only witness to his son's accident, but refused to speak out against the driver. Jeff can either save her by getting the key to the chains that sits in between piping hot bars, or let her die by letting the water that sprays on her body freeze her to death. Initially, he wants to get his revenge and just watches, but as she slowly turns into a block of ice and screams for help, Jeff chooses to get the key from the bars. The problem is that it's just slightly out of reach, so he needs to press his face against the hot pipes which would burn him. What he can do here is, and I've heard this many times, but take off one of the sweaters, put it against his cheek, and then press his face against the bars. He can also put his shirt over the nozzle spraying the water by tying his sweater around the pole. That way the water would spray into the clothing and not onto the woman. Eventually Jeff gets the key by burning his face, but the woman is already dead.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. Come on. I'm getting really tired of these damn ads.
He leaves and enters the next room. Here he finds the judge that gave the drunk driver only 6 months in prison. The tape explains that once again, he can choose to save the judge by burning his son's toys that Jeff held onto for a long time. If he does this, he will find the key among the ashes of the stuffed animals, or he can simply let him die. In this room, pigs are brought in and shredded to a liquid. This chunky fluid then goes into the big tub the judge is lying in. And as more and more pigs come in, he will slowly drown in pig guts. The judge tries for help, but Jeff only asks why he gave a careless drunk driver under 6 months in prison. But as the judge drowns and begs him not to become like the killer and let people die in front of him, Jeff goes downstairs and looks at his son's possessions. It's a tough decision for him, but he burns his son's stuffed animals to get the key. And we see that even though there's no physical pain, Jeff does pay an emotional price. He gets the key and frees the judge. This one was fairly tough to cheat. One possibility is that you can try to rip or lift the pigs off the chain, since there can't be unlimited pigs there. And they don't look like they're that tightly secured, as they pretty much fall out at the lightest touch of this mechanism. You can also do this, which is very speculative, but if it works, the entire trap would break. Take different things in the room, like the pallets, this wheelbarrow, or the empty barrel, and hang it on the hooks that run on the chain. What could happen is that they jam up or potentially even break the frame that lifts the pigs from the hook into the shredder. So you're trying to break this box which releases the pigs. If it's broken, the pigs go by the shredder without falling in. And if a giant metal barrel tries to go through this little opening, it could either break the box or the barrel might stop the chain since there's just too much resistance. But Jeff manages to beat the chop himself, so he doesn't really have to cheat here. Meanwhile, Lynn is giving John his needed brain
You're
surgery,
good.
and
You're
Amanda
fine.
seems to be jealous of Lynn because John is giving her all of his attention, which she can't seem to handle.
I can't do anything in that trap. I really can't.
He also says that he's disappointed in Amanda because of the latest traps she set up. She was the one who put Troy and Allison into impossible traps, and they really weren't testing people's will to survive. She also killed Adam from the first movie as well as Eric after he escaped his chains. She's just a murderer. I mean, John is also one, but Amanda even more so. Both Jeff and the judge then walk into the last room where they find the man who ran over Jeff's kid, the drunk driver himself, Timothy Young. The tape says that he's strapped to a machine called the rack. What happens here is that different motors twist his hands and legs until they're completely ripped off. What Jeff needs to do is reach into a glass box with a shotgun and pull off the key to the trap, which triggers the gun. So he has to take a bullet to save the killer. The trap starts and slowly twists one limb after the other. And even though this is probably the most violent trap, it's also the easiest to beat, because every single wire is exposed. These wires go to the motors that twist his limbs, and if you rip out or tear apart the cables, the motors can't turn anything, because there's no electricity. Now I know Jeff wouldn't initially pull the wires because he kind of wanted him to die, but the judge could have done that. As for the box, you could get a small makeshift rope by, for example, ripping the judge's shirt or using shoelaces and tie it around the key. Then grab the rope while standing safely next to the gun, pull it twice to make sure it's out of ammo, and take out the key. Another advantage is that all the gears that are turning the limbs are also exposed, so they could try to jam them by putting some hard metallic objects lying in the room in between the gears. That way they would give out and stop twisting his legs. Jeff then gets the key by unscrewing it from the wire, but as he takes it out, the gun fires and hits the judge.
Got the key.
By the way, apparently nobody noticed that he got shot in the face from this side, then he turns and reveals that the wound is somehow on the other side. Either way, Jeff gets the key, but Tim is killed before he can put it into the lock. When he walks out of the room, he finds a gun, and enters the hall where John, Amanda, and Lynn are. At the same time, Amanda has had enough of Lynn because John only talks to her, and whenever she interrupts, he only tells her she's being rude.
No, man, we don't need you.
So Amanda shoots Lynn right as Jeff enters. She falls into his arms, and it's revealed that these two are actually married. Out of revenge, Jeff shoots Amanda and kills John with a buzzsaw, but Lynn still has the collar around her neck, which now starts blinking red since John is dead. As his heart rate eventually reaches zero, the collar detonates.
No one cares for the ads.
On a final tape, Jeff hears that John kidnapped his daughter, and he's the only one who knows where she is.
Yep.
Now Jeff is even more alone than he was before. But let's look at how the shotgun collar could have been beaten. The main weakness with this one is that the hammers to the shells are completely accessible. The collar functions exactly like a regular shotgun. The shells have gunpowder in them, and when they're hit by the hammers, they fire the pellets inside. One thing both Jeff and Lynn could do is stuff the space in between the hammers and the shells so that once they get triggered, they will be blocked from firing. But he had the power to get out of bed and disconnect his heart rate monitor. But he probably wouldn't do that, because Lynn is more important to this game than Amanda. And during all of that, Lynn should still kill her because Amanda is wearing the key to the collar. After she put the collar onto Lynn, she put on the key to the trap.
What the hell?
In fact, she put on right in front of Lynn. And ignoring all of that, Lynn should still kill her because Amanda is wearing the key to the collar. After she put the collar onto Lynn, she put on the key to the trap. In fact, she put it on right in front of Lynn.
You give me the simple version. You will keep him alive.
So chop this crazy bitch's head off, get the key, and unlock the collar. Then you can go back, call the cops, and get John into jail. And even though Amanda warns her by saying that shaking the collar brought her back, but by getting his revenge, he's left even more empty and alone than he was before. Only by leaving the past and looking forward can everyone in this movie be safe. Except for Troy. And Allison. And Eric. But all the people in Jeff's trial. And don't get me wrong, John and Amanda are still very crazy. But I'm just saying that's how Jeff could have saved them all. By the way, one of you guys had a great solution for how to beat the mask in the second movie. We looked at how placing a simple block in the mask could save Mike, but then he's just there with a block in his mask. Well, a user named Mr. Whitman wrote that he can take the scalpel and clip the leather straps that fix the mask to his body, and that gives him.
Hold on, my bear fan. Something is wrong with the damn internet. Alright, let's go back to that Solve 4 one. We just did that. Oh, no. No, no. What the fuck is going on? Stupid damn freaking Wi-Fi box is a piece of... Oh my god. Fucking why? Why is this happening? Why? Why now, huh? Why now? Stupid, dumb, freaking internet box. Oh, really? It's excellent, right? Well, if it was excellent, then why the fuck is it not? Oh, come on. Oh my god. Oh my fucking goodness. Can you please hurry the fuck up? Oh no. Come on. Come on now. Don't do this to me. Come on. Come on. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Come on. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Stupid damn freaking Wi-Fi is poor. I hate poor Wi-Fi. I hate it. I fucking hate it. 2 more vids. Come on. Why? Stupid Wi-Fi. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Why? Don't do this to me. No! You a-hole! You fucking a-hole! Oh my god. Okay, okay. You know what? You know what? We're gonna look for a different freaking Wi-Fi. Screw this Wi-Fi. This Wi-Fi is ass. That's exactly what I wanted. Fucking stupid Ducks EXT, whatever. It decided to be a fucking orb network, and see, look at that. It's much more faster. What the fuck? Okay, here we go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh wait. Oh no. Oh no. Wrong one. Oh no. Oh wait. Oh no. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There it is. There it is. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh wait. Oh no. Oh. Oh wait. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Solve 4. Let's do it again. Alright, here we go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
After the first increase comes Saw 4, which has some of the most complex and extreme traps yet. Here we follow Daniel Gray, who must play one of Jake's games to save his friends, and like always, there's a major twist at the end. I was happy to see that Saw 4 features a good blend of traps that are both really difficult and pretty easy to beat. Wow! With that being said, let's look at how you can survive Saw 4. This one starts off with the autopsy of John Kramer following his death in Saw 3. In his head, the coroners find a piece of a skull that was removed by Lynn. They continue cutting a molding to examine the skull. Inside his stomach, they find a covered in wax that John swallowed in the previous movie.
Oh, you're using your remote.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask if I could steal in Fernando's TV, but okay.
Even though he's dead, John's legs will continue without him. We cut to 2 men waking up in an abandoned mausoleum. One of them, Trevor, has his eyes on shut, and the other, on flank, has his mouth on shut. They're both never
Yeah.
Do you have a dustpan in here anywhere?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Why? Why?
Chain by their collars. The chain slowly gets pulled towards the trap in the middle, and if it drags them all the way in, they get strangled to death. Trevor accidentally activates the trap, and their test begins. Art sees that they're supposed to get the key, which unlocks their collar off of Trevor's neck. They can both both survive here if they work together and manage to get the key. The blind guy notices he's given access to many sharp tools and hammers, which he throws at Art out of fear, thinking he's here to hurt him. Since Art is the only one who can see, their survival really depends on him. One thing he can do is take this small sharp axe, which was one of the things Trevor threw at him, and use it to
What
cut
these
the
King
thread
could
with
do is
his
just
metal
install
shot.
1 to
Then
4
they
by
can communicate and work together to unlock the powers.
hit
You
start,
can also
and
use the axe
then
to cut the wires
put
to lower
in
that tightens the chain.
saw
That way the
5
chain doesn't get pulled and no
by
one can be strangled.
binge
However,
Xpress.
this trap is only beatable from Art's perspective, but not from the blind guy. Even if Trevor killed Art, who he thought was a threat, that doesn't stop the machine. He's just thrown in this scenario without an explanation or chances to survive. Art ends up killing Trevor and retrieves the key to free himself. Then he forces his mouth open for no reason. He could have just done that earlier and talked with Trevor. He'd explain that he's not a threat and what they have to do. They would both get the key, unlock their powers, and live. It's mentioned in the extra footage that Art didn't open his mouth out of fear that he might do something wrong, but it still seems like a better option than dying or killing someone. After the timer card, a SWAT team enters a dark basement. There, the officers find Allison Kelly dead in the angel trap. Daniel Craig, the man we've seen in the previous movies, is also here, and he's deeply troubled by Jigsaw's games as he already lost 2 co-workers to the killer. Later on, FBI agents Lindsay Perez and Peter Strong arrive and conclude that Amanda wasn't the only one helping John. She couldn't have put Allison into the trap herself as she would have been too heavy for Amanda to lift. That another unknown person was helping Jigsaw. Later that night, Rick gets overpowered and sedated by someone in a pig mask at his house. He wakes up in his own bathroom and finds a big red question mark on the door. After going into the bedroom and getting his gun, the TV turns on. The puppet appears and explains that tonight Rick will get the opportunity to save Eric. It's revealed that Amanda didn't actually kill Eric in Saw 3, but only knocked him unconscious. He was then held as a prisoner and got put into a new trap. He's currently standing on a block of melting ice while hanging from his neck. Greg is told that he can find the clues to Eric's location by playing Jigsaw's game, but he only has 90 minutes before the ice melts and Eric suffocates. The trap is beatable, but there are a lot more crucial details that are shown later on. When it's done playing, he goes into his living room where he finds a woman in a trap. It's mentioned that she's a prostitute who Jigsaw is unworthy of life. Now, Greg doesn't have to help him. He's even advised by Jigsaw to simply walk away and focus on saving Eric, but he tries saving her anyway. In this test, she's chained to a chair secured by a combination ring, and her hair is tied around a twisted bar. As the bar rotates, it pulls stronger and stronger on the hair. This continues until her scalp is pulled off. The trap starts and slowly pulls out her hair in short intervals. Greg tries firing at it, but that doesn't work. One major thing mentioned by others is that he could shoot her hair and not the trap. Shoot the wire supplying electricity to the motor twisting the bar. He can also try to jab up the gears that turn the bar with a knife dart. That way she's instantly free and Rick wouldn't have wasted any time. Instead, he tries searching for a knife to cut the hair. Unfortunately, all of his knives have been taken out. However, there is a broken picture frame where he could use the glass as a knife. Another solution is breaking the top of his flower and using that as a blade. He goes back and tries to solve this puzzle by finding numbers written on the gears, which is the combination to unlock. But he needs to hurry because her hair is quickly being ripped off. Eventually, Rick gets the code and frees her. You'd think she'd be thankful that the woman reaches for a big knife and tries to stab her. Rick overpowers her and kills her out of self-defense. As he tries to leave the house and find Eric, he sees 2 keys in the exit. There's also a note that reads, one of them gives life, the other one takes it away, which he takes and goes. The keys lead him to a cheap motel where he will be faced with another test. He enters the room for which he was given the key at his home. There, Rick finds a new tape telling him that he needs to abduct the motel owner, Ivan Landis, and put him into a trap. Doing this will get him closer to finding Eric's location. Rick lures Ivan into the room where Jigsaw wants him and forces the guy into his trap. The reason given for Ivan's trial is that he abused and tortured women in the past. Ivan puts himself into this strange contraption where his limbs are in chains that are connected to metal beams at the edge of the bed. When that's all done, he puts his head in a bind. Rick then finds the next screw and leaves him alone to face his test. He doesn't really want to help him after what he's done. In the bed, Ivan is told to press 2 triggers which cause 2 spikes to poke into his eyes, making him permanently blind. If he doesn't do this, the metal beams connected to his limbs will pull away and rip off his arms and legs. It's a pretty bizarre trap. I had to rewatch this like 3 times before I understood what the hell is even happening here. But you either lose your eyes or you lose your life. This one is very tough to beat without doing what's intended because you're once again completely tied down. What Ivan could try is using his arm, leg, and neck muscles all together to try and slightly shift his head in the vines. If he moves it as little as an inch down, the spikes would go over his eyes and into his forehead. And I doubt that they are powerful enough to break the skull, as it tends to take a lot more resistance. The spikes are also just meant to slightly dig into his eyes, so they don't push that hard. He winds up pressing the first trigger and loses one of his eyes, but the time runs out before he can hit the second one. The trap goes off and tears off his limbs, resulting in his death. Now we're in Eric's room, and we see that Hoffman is sitting next to him. Eric becomes tired of Jigsaw's games and jumps off the ice block to end it all. It's shown that the two are on opposite ends of the scale, which now leans to Hoffman's side with the ice block's water running towards him. As the ice melts further, more water flows towards Hoffman, and if enough fluid is there, the scale tips to his side and he will be electrocuted. The man overseeing them puts Eric back on the ice block so the game can continue. It's then revealed that the hooded man is Art Blank, the guy from the first bout with his mouth sewn shut. Back in Jigsaw's game, Ring's clues lead him to an abandoned school. He enters the door to the next trap. Here he finds a couple tied to a pole, and people are Rex and Morgan. The woman suddenly wakes up and tells Rick that she had already beaten her trap. In a flashback, we see that they both woke up tied to the pole with multiple steel rods pierced through their bodies. The spikes go in through Morgan and out to Rex. She played the tape which tells her that to survive, she needs to pull the rods out of her body, which kills her husband. Or she can leave the spikes in and bleed to death when her husband lives. The rods are placed so that the woman needs to remove them for her wounds to heal, but the guy needs to keep them in so he doesn't bleed out. And since Rex has very little power left, the choice is up to Morgan. The game begins and she doesn't hesitate to pull out the rods. She pretty much hates her husband because he physically harmed both her and their child numerous times in the past. She pulled out most of the rods, which led to Rex dying. Now Rick can choose to give her the key to help her out of the trap. But first he removes the final rod from her body and searches the classroom. There he finds the final clue to Eric's location. The Gideon meat packing plant from South Wade. Rick walks out of the room and gives Morgan the key, saying she needs to save herself. She then uses the key and unlocks herself from the trap. However, she wouldn't have needed to remove the last rod. Instead, she can just unlock herself from the trap and step off with the rod still inside her. She will be pulling it out of her husband, but not herself. The paramedics arrive soon after, so she will survive with a lot less pain. The only way I see both of them surviving is if Morgan only removes one of the steel rods. Then she can take the rod's sharp edge and cut them over straps and tie to the pole. Alternatively, she can use the rod to try and get the projector to smash the glass door.
Why do I always do that to my stuff
After
in
the
weird
straps
stuff?
are
I
cut, she
always
can release herself in a way that she pulls the
What?
rods out of
Darn.
herself and leaves them in the husband. That way, Rex has a much higher probability of not bleeding out. Even though cutting leather can sometimes be really tough, she does have quite a bit of time. But the woman manages to survive on her own, and maybe it's better she free herself and her husband. The FBI agents arrive at the classroom minutes later. Morgan did survive and tells them that Greg saved him. Perez then gets a call and figures out that all the people in this game are criminals, and everyone is represented by the same lawyer, Art Black, the guy monitoring Eric and Hoffman. After Derek, he again tries to jump off the block, but fails and is put back. Hartman tells him that he simply needs to wait out the remaining time and is free to go. He then gives Eric a revolver with one bullet, telling him to use it carefully. Meanwhile, Strawn finds John's ex-girlfriend Jill and asks her what's going on. In a flashback, she tells him that Hart Blank and John knew each other quite well in the past. The two were business partners in a construction project. However, after getting cancer, John wanted out, and instead focused on setting up these crazy games to kill people. It's then revealed in a flashback within a flashback that Jill was pregnant with John's baby. Unfortunately, she had a miscarriage when a man named Cecil slammed the door in her stomach during the robbery. Not long after, John set up a trap for him. A few days later, Cecil was kidnapped and sedated. He wakes up in the room strapped to a chair while John is still setting up the trap. He tries to free himself but notices blades underneath his hands, meaning that he can't use them. Cecil tries to reason with John, but following 2 minutes of talking, a box of knives is put in front of his face. What he needs to do is lean forward into the blades, and if he goes far enough and hits this one with his head, the hand and leg restraints are open and he beats the trap. He slowly leans forward into the knives, and it looks quite painful. But eventually he manages to free himself. Unfortunately, he tries to attack John, but stumbles and falls into a bed of razor wire and dies. Now, Cecil's key advantage here is that he wakes up before John puts the knives on his head, and that John gives his 5-minute villain speech where he walks around the lair. This is very important because if you look very closely at his hands, you can see that they are being held in place by this handcuff, which is locked by these pins. The good news is that they're completely accessible from the start. So while John is walking around the lair, Cecil can bend down and pull the pins out with his mouth. Then the locks to his hands will open and he could free himself and escape, or kill John. The pins are also connected to the spar which he can hit with his head, exactly like he would have to do when the knives are there, just without the blades. I'm confident this would work because when John puts the contraption on his head, he never touches the bar of the triggers again. There wasn't anything else that was activated. I think John simply hoped that Cecil would notice. Once the knives are on your head, you can try pushing through them with your hair first to have at least a little bit more resistance, and there's a lot less visible scarring afterwards. We go back to Jill talking to John, who tells her to leave him alone, so they broke up and are no longer together. When that flashback is done, we're back in Jill's interrogation. Strong takes a quick break and finds a newspaper that shows where Eric and Hoffman might be. He yells at Jill to tell him where it is, even though the location is right there in the picture. Meanwhile, Rick arrives at the meatpacking plant. Eric, Art, and Hoffman then see that the door is rigged to a mechanism that releases 2 big icebox that will smash Eric's head if someone opens it. Eventually, Strom also enters the door. Back in the room, Art reveals that he has a spine cutter strapped to his back. It turns out that after the mausoleum test, Art had this device put onto his back and was forced to set up and oversee this game. If the 90 minutes run out and the door is not open, the device will unlock. However, if someone goes through it, it's automatically activated and cuts his spine. So for Eric and Art to survive, Rick cannot find them. This goes directly against what Rick thinks because he's trying to get to Eric to save him. Then we see that this movie takes place at the same time as the third film, meaning that Jeff and Rick's games are happening simultaneously. Rick approaches Eric's room and is about to enter. Eric screams to not open the door, but Rick can't really hear him. As he comes closer, Eric shoots him, but he still walks in. The icebox drop and kill Eric. Rick also shoots Art in the chest, thinking he's the killer. The scare then tips the Hoffman side, meaning that he should get electrocuted. However, Rick, Art, and Hoffman are all still alive. The injured Art reaches to play a tape, but Rick thinks he's pulling a gun and shoots him. It starts playing and says that Rick didn't need to find Eric to save him. All he had to do was wait out the time. The whole game was a test to see if Rick could let go of his obsession to help everyone. Such a good prank. Hoffman then comes up behind him, and it's revealed that he was John's accomplice the whole time. But how can Eric and Art beat their traps and survive? Okay, really quick guys, this was one of the tougher traps, so my solution isn't the greatest, but if you have any suggestions, make sure to let me know in the comments. When Rick approaches, he hears Eric screaming, but doesn't notice he's telling him not to come inside. What Eric can do is shoot the window to the door before Rick charges in. That way, Rick would either be scared up by the gunshot, or he would probably hear Eric and take his warning to not come in. The 1 second goes by, and they all live. Of course, this method is a little speculative, still I think it's better than what Eric did, because he waited to shoot him until the last second where Rick is already at the door and rushing into the room. Firing off a warning shot a few seconds earlier seems more likely to bind that 1 second, because if it's the police that wants to help him, the open window allows them to communicate. If it's a threat, scaring them off and delaying them with a warning shot seems like a better option than gambling on whether they're coming in and waiting up to the last moment. What Art can do is block the door with the desk, for example, which would stop Rick from entering. He can also break the glass of the door, so when Rick approaches, he can tell them not to enter or they all die. And Rick has seen enough of Jigsaw's games to understand what that means. They only need to slow Rick down for 1 second and they all live. Now, Hoffman is of course in on the game and could intervene with Art at any moment. But if he were doing that to get out of his chair to stop Art, Eric could easily put 1 and 1 together and realize that he's in on it. So he would probably use the gun to shoot Hoffman. And Amanda is also monitoring the game. At this time, she had already been shot by Jeff. So Art could try blocking the door and no one would give him orders against him. It's at the very least worth a try in case of certain death as Rick enters. Because it's either maybe live or definitely die. Anyways, at the same time, Strong is standing in front of the room where Amanda shot Lynn and Jeff killed John. He walks into the room and Jeff aims a gun at him. Strong shoots him and sees that everyone in the room is dead. After the exits, the meat packing plant, leaving the injured bricklayer and locking Strong through. And that's, by the way, why the kid in the beginning told Hoffman that he won't get away on testing. Johnston wants a real trial for Hoffman. That's it for this video. Again, let me know how you would keep the trials. I hope you enjoyed it and that I get to see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.
You're welcome, man. Okay. Now it's time to go to Binge Xpress. Because Binge Xpress does do Saw. They only do Saw 5 and 6 and the 3D one. We're going to go with How to Beat Saw 5.
All hits are still available.
Do you have what it takes to beat the traps of Saw 5? Could you outsmart the genius responsible for the famous torture devices? And if so, how would you do it? Is it even possible? Let's find out. Here is our take on how to beat the traps of Saw 5. Now, if you want to skip the quick intro and jump right into how to beat the traps, then click on the timestamp below. The fans' favorite horror franchise is a classic and needs no introduction. Not so random people find themselves trapped in old rusted chambers, linked to some novel, and honestly, more often than not, quite intriguing torture rooms. A clock, as well as a TV screen with fixed assets in each and every chamber, and the famous puppet is one of the most iconic faces in horror history. What many don't know is that the puppet fulfills a rather symbolic job. You see, John Kramer is a puppet master. All of his chosen victims do exactly as he predicts, without any further or direct instructions, especially in this part of the series. If you are a true fan of the franchise, you will know that the sick game of torture is in reality rehabilitation. Yep, John Kramer, better known as Jigsaw, doesn't just torture random people for personal entertainment. Nope, it is no entertainment at all. He does so to benefit the larger society, because he cures madness with madness, he explains. But why? Well, in Saw 5, we find out that the prisons do not seem very promising in preventing the bad apples of society to continue committing crimes. In fact, we are told that 6 to 7.5% of released prisoners end up behind bars again, within just 3 years of their release. While torture devices of the Saw movies are rather unlikely to be used in the real world, which is reassuring, the ideology that stands behind them isn't. The data presented in the movie comes very close to the actual number found in our world. In 2019, the rate of violent crimes committed by ex-convicts within just 8 years of their release stood at 64%. Therefore, we can safely conclude that the prison system as we know it has indeed failed. And so, it is no wonder that the number of self-proclaimed heroes has multiplied in these times. And that is why John Kramer does what he does. He doesn't punish, he cures. Grab your snacks, people, and let me show you how I would beat the traps of Saw 5. In this movie, we have 3 independent torture scenes or sequences to go through. The first is the device that ultimately killed Seth Baxter, which, as you know, is impossible to solve, as in fact, there was no chance of solving it. He was meant to die. There isn't really much to figure out here, but if you do find a creative way to get out of this situation, you're more than welcome to share with us in the comments down below. The second device is the water box that aims on taking out Agent Peter Strang. Now this one was rather fascinating. If you have watched the movie, you might remember that Agent Strang does not fail to impress when he peers a ballpoint pen right through his throat in order to perform what is known as a tracheostomy. Now don't try to say this again, or you might end up needing it. But perhaps we can find another, less risky way to beat this trap, because there is no way I would stab myself in the throat with a pen. Actually, I don't want to stab myself with anything. We can see he sits in an office chair, able to turn around 360 degrees. His head, stuck in the box, also seems loose enough to actually turn. The first thing I would do is look around. Check out each and every corner of the trap, because you need to know exactly what is going on. Once you have gained the full picture, you perhaps realize that the tubes which fill in the water are actually in reach. And this is it, folks. Grabbing the tubes is your only chance here, And there are 3 ways to go about it. First, try to pull them out completely, as hard as you can. And if that doesn't work, use your pen to poke holes into the tubes so that the water can escape. But let's be honest, guys. Both of these options seem a little bit difficult to pull off. I think the tubes are rather strongly attached to the glass box, and the material of these tubes, well, they look like they're made out of strong rubber, meaning they won't break that easily. So the most likely way to beat this trap is by grabbing the tubes at the lowest point to stop the flow of water. It is very doable because firstly, you can easily reach them, and secondly, you have a chair where you can strategically position your cell phone in order not to waste any more energy than minimally required. And then you wait until someone comes to rescue. Now you might think this takes on forever, but remember, Peter Strand, as well as you right now, is an FBI agent, and his phone is on the table. So at one point, this phone will be tracked, and you will be found. The good thing is, Jigsaw is not watching you in this particular room, hence you're free to free yourself. That is, if you don't panic and lose your shit, just like the next guy in our analysis. You find yourself once again in the hands of no other than Jigsaw. But this time, not only you are wearing a kinky collar, but 4 strangers are also caught up in the exact same situation. But are they really strangers to you? No, Jigsaw makes this very clear, as he states that all of you are linked together, literally linked together. He shares with all of you that there is a connection between each and every one of you, and explains the captivating torture device. He furthermore states that in order to survive, you must not go with your usual instinct, which is a very straightforward suggestion. My take on that is the following. The obvious instinct in the eye of death is survival. I must survive will be present in everyone's head at this point. And this is it, friends. In order to survive, this thought, this instinct is wrong, according to Jigsaw. Since we all are facing the exact same danger, it is an I that must survive. It is we. Once thought of it in these terms, it becomes rather obvious. But first things first, don't be this guy. Everyone is trapped. So do not accuse other people, and most importantly, stop panicking. Nobody likes a drama. And you, my friend, are in a very bad situation. So shut it. We were friends, not enemies. Now we at Binge Xpress would solve the trap like this. First of all, it would be possible for each one of us to walk up, break the glass box, secure a key, and open the collar. Simple and easy, one by one. Once someone has secured a key, whoever it is that reaches up first, we would absolutely try the key in our collar as well. To further back this claim, someone is watching you, implied by the camera above, and the same person gave you hints in order to survive, meaning death is an option and not the rule, allowing the possibility of more than just one way to survive. I guess what I'm trying to say here is you have to think outside the box. Great, everyone survived. This is a very crucial point. Now here's what I mean. If everyone survives, the moral of the group skyrockets, which is an important aspect for healthy teamwork. Surviving situations like these builds trust and binds people together. Off to the next one. What can go wrong?